Good afternoon. The topic for this lecture is Essentials of Valid Marriage under Muslim Law. Before looking at the essentials, we have to look at the conditions that prevailed before Islam could begin. Of course, Islam took its origin in Arabia, where it is full of sand dunes and it is desert. Life was hard. There was no settled form of life. People were nomadic in nature. They used to move from one place to another in search of better pastures. The main occupation of the men was trade and cattle rearing. There was no settled form of marriage. There was no one religion. There was unlimited polygamy. That is, a man could go on marrying spree. That is, marrying one woman after another. And he was not obligated to maintain them. Neither was he obligated to maintain his wife nor his children. A woman was given away in a marriage on a payment of consideration to the parents. There was one religion called Magian where a father could get married, or the father would get married to his own daughter if she is beautiful, and the father said that he has a priority over her. Prophet Muhammad looked at all this, and female infanticide was rampant because of the difficulties, the trials and tribulations faced by girl children. The mother never wanted the female children or the baby girl, because of which the mother would indulge in female infanticide. The Prophet Muhammad looked at all this and wanted to streamline all these practices and rid the society of all these anomalies, and because of which he said, let us have one stable relationship called as nikah. So under Muslim law, a valid marriage is called nikah. How do they get into this? The essentials for a valid marriage under Muslim law. The first one is the age of puberty. What is this age of puberty? Under Muslim law, if a person attains the age of 15 years, be it a boy or a girl, they are competent to get married without the consent of the guardians or without the consent of the parents. Of course, minors marriage was also contracted by the guardians. The proper guardians for contracting the minors marriage were father, paternal grandfather, brother, mother, and mother's brother. These were the proper guardians, and they had to follow the order. In the case of the minors marriage, after the attainment of age of puberty, that is 15 years, if they wanted, they could continue the marriage, or if they didn't, or if they wished to break the marriage, they could do the same by exercising the right of option of puberty immediately after the attainment of age of puberty, within reasonable time, but much before 18 years. Of course, in the light of the Child Marriage Restraint Act, the age of puberty, the right of option of puberty has lost its utility. It's become defunct. It's become infructuous. Because Child Marriage Restraint Act fixes the marriageable age 18 years for the girl, 21 years for the boy. In the light of this act, irrespective of one's religion, everybody will have to follow the dictate of this law, because of which, even if a person is a Muslim, just because he or she attains the age of puberty, 15 years, they cannot get married. As on today, even a Muslim boy, if he is 21 years, if a Muslim girl, only if she is 18 years and above, she can contract marriage. So there is no concept of minus marriage anymore, and there is no question of, or there is no utility of option of puberty. The next essential of a valid marriage is free consent of the parties. If the husband and wife, or if the boy or the girl who are parties to the marriage, if their consent is not free, and if their consent is tainted by force, coercion, undue influence, misrepresentation, mistake of fact, such marriage will not be a valid one, but then it becomes voidable at the option of a person whose consent was not free. The third essential requirement is the observance of formalities. First of all, there has to be offer by the boy, offer of marriage by the boy, and the same will have to be accepted by the girl. Please note, the offer of marriage can be made only by a boy. It can never be made by a girl. So when the offer of marriage is made by a boy, with the same terms and conditions will have to be accepted by the girl. The girl cannot make a counter offer, and the offer and acceptance may be made in writing or orally. When the offer and acceptance is being made, there has to be reciprocity. That is, the girl will have to accept the offer as it is. She cannot make amendments, or she cannot make corrections, additions, or deletions. When the offer is being made, she'll have to accept in entirety, and the marriage will have to be witnessed by at least two proper witnesses. What is this proper witness? The marriage will have to be witnessed by at least two male members. In case two male members cannot be there, at least one male member and two female members should act as a witness. But then Muslim law does not allow the replacement of a man as a witness. There will have to be a minimum of one male witness. And the next one is at the same sitting. That is, offer and acceptance will have to be at the same sitting. There cannot be any time lapse between the offer and acceptance. Fourth major essential requirement for a valid marriage under Muslim law is there should not be any prohibition. What is this prohibition? The prohibitions can be categorized into broad categories of absolute prohibitions and relative prohibitions. Under absolute prohibitions, again we have consanguinity, that is relation by blood, affinity, relation by marriage, fosterage, relation by milk. Let's go to the first one, the consanguinity, that is relation by blood. If the parties to the marriage are related by blood, and if they come within the prohibited degree of relationship, the marriage is void ab initio. Affinity, that is relation by marriage, the parties to the marriage cannot get married to his or her in-laws, sister or brother of one's in-laws, or anybody who comes into prohibited degree of relationship after marriage. There cannot be a contract of marriage between them. Fosterage. If a lady has breastfed the child when the child is below 6 months old, after he grows up, he cannot make an offer of marriage to that lady, because that lady steps into the shoes of his real mother, that is, steps into the shoes of a biological mother, because of which she is equated with a mother, and there cannot be a marriage contract between them. Let's move on to the relative prohibitions now. Under relative prohibitions, the first one is unlawful conjunction. Under Muslim law, though a man is allowed to have 4 living wives, yet he cannot get married to 2 full sisters. What do you mean by 2 full sisters? Whose parents are the same. That is, he cannot get married to 2 full sisters. And if the marriage is not witnessed by proper witnesses, that is, there has to be two male members, or there has to be one male member and two female witnesses. And marriage during pilgrimage, that is, when a man is going on a pilgrimage and if he contracts marriage,